Hey everyone, welcome to Daily Cyber. It's episode number 260. I actually can't imagine. I'm at 260, so it's awesome. Uh, I want to thank you guys so much from the cyber insecurity community, you guys from the cyber security community as well, helping me to kind of grow the podcast, the stream, and just really helping to educate me as I'm sharing my journey, what I'm going through when it comes to cybersecurity, and really helping you guys really learn how to be the best cybersecurity professional that you can be in the industry. So thank you so much for being here. In the next month, we're going to have some more guests on here, so you guys are going to have some experts. But for this month right now, I'm really kind of talking about what I'm going through, answer any questions that you may have, helping you to kind of break through what I consider is the truth about cybersecurity and everything that's going on. So what I want you to do is grab a coffee, grab a tea, and let's hack at it. I'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, Usato. Usato is a Canadian-based cybersecurity company that provides 24/7 cybersecurity support and compliance service that align their customers' tolerance for risk, their clients, suppliers, and government contractual mandates. Usato's teams focus on using insights to drive business decisions. There's no need to leave strategies to chance, when insights can be used to show what changes need to be made and how to make them. Usato offers multiple services to help companies simplify IT, centralize cybersecurity management, and meet compliance standards. Usato can customize their service to work with your existing IT network and programs. For more information, contact Usato at info@uzado.com or visit their website at www.uzado.com. So guys, how was your day? How's your week going? Did you guys come out to the CISSP study group yesterday? I want to really kind of check in with you guys, and here's the goal for today. Ask me anything you want. I've got Sec IT guy monitoring the chat. Ask me anything you want to know about the cybersecurity industry, overcoming challenges, what you're going through, like anything, right? I really want to focus on right now for this episode is helping everyone break through his challenges. There's a lot of great things that are happening in the industry right now. Evolution of new technologies, really, great things happening. Also on the other side, lockdowns. Toronto's locked down again. So we're kind of going through that juggling time of, what do we really need to do? What we really need to focus on. It's interesting. I was in a conversation today, and one of my colleagues, we were talking about how to negotiate, how to collaborate in a negotiation. And it was interesting. They were talking about the challenges that they bring into the negotiation. And so important with cybersecurity professionals like you're in negotiations constantly, right? You're, depending if you're going for a new job, you might be in a negotiation. You might be in a negotiation about how to, implement or get a buy-in for a new technology, new solution that you think the company wants. So you're in a negotiation, education. So it was really interesting to watch these guys talk about how they really didn't understand their counterparts, the people across the table. And when we started to talk about, they were like, yeah, I never thought about that. And this is stuff we talked about with Joel and I at the CISSP. So there was a lot going on there that was really so important to really thinking about the person across the table, what they need, what their wants are, and how we can address them. So got some questions or comments already. Cadendum, I got my EJPT finished like 10 minutes before this. Congratulations, that's awesome. Cyber Incision, would you go to Mars with your wife if you got the offer? That's actually a good question. Now, is there food there? Is there okay, I'm a foodie, so there's got to be food there, good quality food. I'm not talking like McDonald's, fast food. I mean, good quality organic food. We might go. And I mean, if there's pools, I don't know how warm it is on the moon. I don't deal well with cold, so I'm not kind of a cold cat. Think about it. I'm in Toronto, so we have all four seasons, and I really don't like the cold. I like the warm, so it'd be interesting to see. If Mars is warm, good quality food, I might go. All right. But again, the boss is my wife, so we'll have to see what she says. Or would you just let her go? No. No. I love my wife. I love spending time with her. It's a funny thing. My wife and myself are entrepreneurs, right? And have been for a while. And I'm a cybersecurity sales guy. So most of my job's at home, right? And being here, we spend roughly probably about in our days, we probably spend 7 days a week, 10 hours, 12 hours a day in an apartment together. And we've been doing this for like 15, 20 years. So we get along really, really well in a small space in an apartment, right? And, I don't know what I'd do if she wasn't around. I'd probably feel lost. So that's just, our relationship with myself and my wife. We have such a close relationship. So if she was gone or she was in Mars and I was here, I probably wouldn't know what to do. And to be honest with you, I'd probably watching Netflix and chilling like for hours and gain so much weight. It'd just be terrible. So yeah, it wouldn't be a good thing if she wasn't here. Next question. What are your thoughts on XDR? Give me a second. I want to actually look up, just make sure I've got the acronym right. XDR. So many different acronyms out there. Now, you're talking about like the extended detection response. Is that what you're saying? Confirm that for me, because I just want to make sure we're talking about that acronym. As we know in cybersecurity, there's so many different acronyms out there. Ideas on navigating, getting a Protectium, which is a college graduate requirement for me during the pandemic. Interesting. You guys are making me look some stuff up. Just give me a second here. A practical section of a course of study. Okay, so if you're looking at some practice, first and foremost, see if you can do any volunteer work. Non-for-profits, these different organizations, especially when you're looking at IT, cybersecurity, a lot of these non-for-profits, charitable organizations are looking for help, right, and looking for volunteers to be able to help. So you can look and call them. And a lot of this stuff is remote, so you don't have to go to a location, right? You could say, look, I'm part of this college. I need to do some experience, get some experience. And what I want right now is I want to get, some IT cybersecurity experience. I really want to help you out. And then from there, you can get that hands-on experience and put on your resume, or even with your college, just say, look, I worked for this non-for-profit to set up their network, harden their infrastructure, set up policies and procedures, whatever you did, and then write out your projects. So that's what I recommend on that. Yes, XDR is cross-layer detection and response. You know what? I'm going to have to look that up. I have a little bit of information of that, right? Because it's kind of like the defense in depth. And let's kind of go through this right now. XDR stands for the cross-layer detection and response. XDR collects and then correlates data over a variety of security layers, including endpoints, email, server, cloud, workloads, and the general network. XDR is a new alternative approach to traditional detection and instant response, integrated detection and response procedures across multiple environments. I actually, to be honest with you, I think it's just next generation, right, of collecting logs and monitoring. I think what we're seeing right now when it comes to like SIMs and log monitoring and things along that line, when they correlate into a SIM, it's really how are we monitoring those tools, right? And then how are we actually looking at the detection and response? So from what I'm seeing this actually on Fortinet right now. It's not bad. It's the kind of that next layer of defense in depth. But I know when I was selling, like right now with SIM, trying to think log monitoring, things along that line. And I was selling Vector before, which was network detection and response. And that was supposed to fill the gap, right, of printers, copiers, things that are not being monitored. And then you're supposed to get this full picture of the full network. I think what they're trying to do, and this is just my opinion, what happens is we're trying to get all devices, IoT, network devices, servers, printers, copiers, mobile devices, all trying to be monitored into a central location so we can start to do log monitoring to see if we can actually detect and respond incidents quicker, right? And then, of course, you have vulnerability testing, things like that that's going on that you're going to try to keep doing it. And I think what it comes down to is a defense in-depth strategy. The more things you're looking at, the more things you're monitoring, the easier it is to detect something. Now, don't get me wrong. you have to have, and this is my only personal opinion, I think what you have to have is you have to have people that are security mindful to make sure that they're testing constantly. Because what happens is, I've seen this, and then from reading articles and kind of going to different feeds, that all the monitoring that they have, sometimes hackers get in, they pass the monitoring, they pass everything out, and they're in for 6 months doing reconnaissance, and they're not caught. So they have to look at baselines, the irregularities, things are just not, happening properly. So then what happens is, when you turn and look at it as a security, almost like binoculars, with like as a security person, you're kind of going, where could they go? Where could they get in? And you're constantly assessing that as well. So it's actually an individual. So you've got all these technology tools, but you should actually have an individual looking at testing things, restoring things from backup, and just testing things to see if they're in a development environment, if they're working properly, or if there starts to run to errors or something starts happening. Now, on the other side, I'm going to put my business hat on. That's going to cost a lot of money and utilize a lot of resources, people, right, to do that. So I think it's hard. I think, when it comes to, defense of security, we're working with one hand tied behind our back a lot of times. You've got change management, you've got policies and procedures and process you have to go through. You've got financial restraints, right? Because the budget is only pays for so much, and you have, so many other projects that are going on, where hackers, they don't have a budget. They can just hack away as much as they want, right? They can find stuff online, go to the dark web, find scripts, right? And just go find teams to work together, right? There's a lot of stuff that I've been hearing online. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I am, but there's a lot of stuff they can go on, and like ransomware. I'm actually hearing like there's help desks. There's help desks for ransomware. Hey, I want to ransomware a school. Oh, great. Guess what? Call this hotline and we'll walk you through the support of how to do it, how to install it, how to set it up, how to deploy it, right? How to manage it, how to work with Bitcoin, all that. So it's kind of really crazy when you kind of think of that. We got one hand tied behind our back. And now, to let you go, as I'm going on a little bit of a rant here, the one thing that I'm seeing right now, more law enforcement agencies as well as different alliances now are working better together to cross different borders when it comes to legalities. And they're starting to have these better conversations that someone's overseas and they hack a company in Canada, North America. How do we hold them accountable? So keep your ear to the ground here and listen for that. That's coming soon. Like, more and more organizations are talking about that. Just give me a second here. Next question. New to the job that does vulnerability testing, what's the best program for doing web server scanning? Okay, so SecIT, Cyber and Security is actually in the chat. He's actually my go-to guy when it comes to vulnerability testing and pen testing. I'll let him answer that one because that's kind of his wheelhouse for doing pen testing, which best tools to use. Next one. How would someone go about doing sales in cybersecurity? I have 4.5 years in working in sales associate. Okay, so right now when it comes to cybersecurity and sales, and I'll be the first one to say it, I'm not the best sales guy. Like, I'm not Grant Cardone or anything along that line. I'm not who has my money type personality. But I know this. Find out a system that works for you. And what I mean is, if you're hunting, and give you guys kind of an idea how sales works. You've got your hunters, right? The guys that go on and book meetings, right? They're going out finding different, demographics, different people, different organizations, who those people are in those organizations to contact, and they're hunting. They're calling them in a certain cadence. So that would be one call on Monday, an email on Tuesday, a call again on Thursday, and they've got this cadence that they're working through to try to get, at least an answer response. Yes, I'll meet with you, or stop calling me, take me off your list. Now they're going through trying to get like at least 50 to 80 contacts per day, right? And through that process, as you're hunting, what happens is you're trying to book as many meetings on your calendar. Now, this is kind of your, inside salespeople. Then what happens, it goes to the next level where you kind of have your executive salespeople, where now they're the guys that when the meeting's booked, they actually go to the meeting, right? And they're the ones that start to, work on, qualifying the opportunity, going through BANT, budget, authority, need, time. I mean, you know this being in sales. So you're going through that. You're trying to qualify it quickly, then going through to scope. Now, how are we doing this in this day and age of the pandemic? A lot of people are not answering their phone. Caller ID. If they don't know who it is, they're not going to answer the phone. Emails, they're not really responding to emails because they're 100, 120 deep in emails. It's just overwhelming. Now, I'm getting this from the people I'm talking to. I'm actually surveying them and saying, look, thank you so much for your time. What made it you get probably a lot of sales emails. You probably get a lot of calls. What was it about my call, my email that you would answer? Right? It was because of this and because of that. And I was interested in this time. And it was just right timing, right place. The next thing is marketing, sales, marketing, online social media. If you're going to get into cybersecurity sales, you got to know your product, know your solution, talk to what's the benefits for them. It's not about me. It's not about my company, Use Auto, who I work for. It's about what's the benefits for them. And then you got to get out there and start talking about it. That's a long answer when it comes to sales, but that's how I've met the great people that I've worked with, the people that I'm constantly going out and talking to. It's all about them. What do they need? How can I help them? Right? So you can get in that mindset. Look up Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. Really good at understanding different mindsets of collaborative negotiation and working with your colleagues to really show that you care and mean it, not be just disingenuous as a strategy, but actually mean it. So take a look at that, Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. Next, I had an interview for InfoSec for a bank, and one of the questions was, if a virus was found on a production critical server that can't be taken offline, how would you handle it? I didn't really know how to answer it. Won't the virus propagate if I don't take the server offline? Okay, so first thing, now I'm going to talk on incident response when I was doing this for the Ontario government. If it's a critical system, what they have to do is try to segregate it as best as possible. So what I would say is, first and foremost, I would go into an incident response. If it's a critical server, I would actually log a severity 1 ticket. Right, get that logged in, make sure that there's a priority going on, that all parties involved that need it. So IT's informed, security's informed, as well as upper management's informed. Then from there, what we do is we look at how can we actually use an antivirus program to scan that server as quickly as possible to isolate that virus and try to make sure that it doesn't propagate through the network. Right? And then from there, then we look at how we clean it and do that, and then test to see if it's gone anywhere else. That's how I would do it. And then, of course, through the instant response, because you're doing, if it's a priority 1, there's probably like hour meetings. Every hour there's an update session. I would say that we have cadence of every hour for updates and debriefing. And then at the end, there's actually kind of a debriefing of what happened, how did this situation occur, and then what we're going to do going forward to fix this. So that's my recommendation. Cyber and security might have something different. Also, Sec IT guy might have something different that they do. But that, from my experience being an incident response, that's normally the process I would say if I was in an interview. Give me a second here. Next question. Police officer here from Spain. Well, welcome. Been doing public safety for 15 years and trying to jump into private sector on cybersecurity. I'll be starting a master's degree on blue team, red team in October. Any advice regarding to study from certs before the master's? Maybe EJPT, something harder. I have 6 months. Initially level is not next to 0. Okay, so actually you probably have a great mindset. Thinking that you're a police officer. Having a police officer, you're going to have the understanding how the criminal mind works. Right. So then, and you probably, because of being a police officer, you have methodologies and process too. So having those two and combine them is going to help you when you look at pen testing, because you're going to have a methodology of how you're actually going to do your pen testing, right? From the tools that you use to your engagement to anything along that line. Now, what I'd recommend is studying. INE has a good course for pen testing. I would look online for Hack the Box. I think one that's recommended. Trying to think if there's anything else just to start out with. I'd actually speak to like other pen testers right now, see what they're working on. Kali Linux, I mean, something to look at right now and understand it. If you're just completely new, I would actually download Kali Linux, get very comfortable with Linux, right? Take a Linux course as well, how to, navigate through Linux, right? Those are some tools I would start to look at. There's a lot of Udemy courses, kind of free courses online that you can actually learn how to use Linux, Kali Linux. I actually think Offensive Security actually has a course too, right? But you can download Kali Linux, start working with it, really kind of get comfortable with working with Linux and navigating through it. That's going to be very important. And start using the tools. Start to play with them a little bit, right? Now, key thing here, on your own network, don't do it on anyone else's computer or anyone's systems. You have to have an actual engagement letter to do it on anyone else. Other than that, it's actually hacking, and you don't want to get caught doing that, especially being a police officer. You don't want to break the law. So if you're going to do that, own lab, set up in some VMware, start hacking in between your own network, start testing that out. Those are some recommendations I would start. Now, the guys in the actual chat probably have some recommendations as well, but that's kind of mine to start out with. In your opinion, what would be your top 3 areas to specialize in for a future pen tester? Cloud is huge now. It's massive, right? Amazon, Azure, Oracle, you name it. I would look at doing that. IoT, autonomous vehicles, quantum computers, I'm trying to think, just anything quantum related, right? Right now, I would do research on it because they can't get access to a quantum computer. They're starting they have China has ones starting at like $10,000 or $15,000. But right now, I would look into that research, quantums, anything encryption and quantum. That's going to be big in the next probably year to 2 years. For pen testers, anything else you're looking at pen testing? Autonomous vehicles, Internet of Things, cloud, anything cloud related, cloud solution, software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, anything along that line. Those are things I would kind of look at areas that you love, right? You're really excited about, and then go for those ones. Now, to be honest with you, I would probably start with cloud right now because it's the most transitioned to in the last year, right? So there's probably a lot of gaping holes for a lot of clients, right? So they're probably going to ask for people like yourself to come and pen test and make sure that they're secure. So a lot going on there. Oh, I've been sitting in my chair all day. So a lot going on there. So guys, keep the questions coming. So let me ask you guys, and that this is not a poll. I just want you to think about this. How is your stress levels right now through the pandemic over the last year? How are you feeling? All right, and I really want to talk about that today because with cybersecurity and IT, experts like us, right, as we're going through and evolving in our career, we've got so much pressure, right? You got your job 9 to 5, maybe you have family at the end of the day, you're spending time with the kids, wife, husband, significant other, whoever that may be, right? And then what happens is then you have to study. So you only have so much limited time. And then what happens is through that limited time, you're trying to evolve your career. And it almost seems like you just don't have enough time, right? And a lot of professionals love what they do. And I'm sure you guys love what you do. It just seems like, oh my God, like I got to keep going. I got to keep going. I got to keep going. One thing I'm recommending right now is take a step back. Plan out your projects and everything you're working on and chunk them, right? I've been talking to a lot of people recently and they're looking at this big picture. Oh my God, I want to be, senior pen tester. And they're starting out in cybersecurity and I want to be the senior pen tester. Okay, hold on. Start from junior pen tester. Start from even smaller than that. Can you hack a SQL box? Can you hack Amazon? Can you do a cloud? Can you do that? Start, there, and then work your way through that process to get to that next level, and then the next level, and the next level. I think, we all heard the analogy, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. Same thing as you're doing with your cybersecurity and your cybersecurity career. Make sure you're taking chunks out of it and you're going slowly because you will burn out quickly, right? I felt it sometimes where I've had to take breaks where I'm like, oh my God, I've got so much going on. I've got, calls and things I'm doing throughout the day. Then, I'm finished. I'm doing streaming at night. And then in the mornings, I got to study and then you're working out and doing all that. And then by the Friday, I'm like, okay, how'd this week go? And it's like, it's Friday already. I can't believe it. right? And then you got the weekend, and I'm trying to catch up on a lot of things. And then all of a sudden Monday starts, and it's like, you blink and it's April, right? I'm like, oh my God, I thought we were just in January. So I'm giving you guys advice that I'm doing for myself is slowing down, taking more time, right? Studying, more efficiently, right? And making sure. And I talked about this the last time, is that I'm now looking at ways to optimize my reading, how to be a better, faster, and be able to retain information quicker, right? Taking quick speed reading courses, right? I'm trying to think of a few of them. Jim Quick was one. I've taken just the other one. 7 Speed Reading EX is another course I've taken. So right now I'm average around like 500 words per minute, my speed reading. And I'm trying to get to the point where it's now go from 500 to 750. And I'm trying to keep increasing it because the amount of stuff that you and I read is crazy, right? I mean, the books that we read, the articles that we're reading, the websites we're going through, right? White papers, you name it, right? Contracts, legalities, you name it. We're reading through this. And how do we read through this, efficiently so we can consume the information, we don't lose anything. And that's why I'm working on that skill, because I just know like it's never going to end for us to learn. So how do I be more efficient? How do I master that skill of reading and learning? So guys, keep the questions coming. Let me know if you have any questions about studying, anything else, keep them coming. Yeah. And if you know any colleagues or friends that are around right now, tell them come out. I'm here to answer any questions that you have. So here's another question I have for you guys, right? Do you guys have time to read for personal reasons, right? Fiction, anything along that line. I know for me right now, I'm trying to read fiction books and something that's not technical to get my mind off like just the constant policies, procedures, governance, IT, and cybersecurity, kind of that. I'm trying to give my mind a little bit of a break so I can retain, what I'm learning. Now, I talked about this the other day, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit today. So many of you guys are studying, right? You're studying everything from EP, EJPT, CSSP, pen testing, Kali Linux, and you're trying to retain this information as quickly as possible. Yesterday on the CSSP study group, I was showing Joel a technique. It's called the location method, and it's loci, I think it's called LOCI, right? If you want to guys look it up. And what it is, it's relating a place to an imagination, and then it's intertwining that so you don't forget. And we deal with a lot of information constantly. And if we can't retain it and be able to recall it later, it's useless to us. And I'll be completely honest, right? Let's call a spade a spade. If you learn a protocol, some sort of script, anything along the line that you can't use later, how is that useful for you? Especially if you're doing pen testing, you need to be able to recall it like right away, right? And be able to kind of go through it and say, okay, look, you know what? I need to go hack this box. I need to go this way. What was that script I used? Okay, I used that. What was the port I was trying to do? And all of a sudden, boom, you're in there, right? So you want to make sure you're able to recall each and everything that you utilize, right? And then you've learned so you can implement it in real world, right? So it's so important to do that. So now let's kind of quickly go through this. Place, imagine a place. Like when I was doing the CSSP and I was learning the domains, I was going through Joel with Joel yesterday, right? And I was calling it like my Brandon's securing Brandon's company, right? That was the main topic. So really kind of relating it to me. So I was like, okay, what's the place? It's my business. So now I have personal investment. I can imagine it, 20-story building, 300, 400 people in it. Really imagine, make it extraordinary, like over exaggerate your imagination, because I can tell you right now, if you over exaggerate in your imagination, you'll don't forget, because you'll be crazy, right? How many of you guys remember a story where it was just so elaborate, right? You just don't forget. No different, right? And think about that. I want you guys just to kind of literally think about that for yourself. Is there a situation where you're like, oh my God, Brandon, there's this time 20 years ago, someone told me this or this happened, and I'm just never going to forget. So that's the imagination. Place, imagination, now entwine them together. So for me, I did for the CISSP, I listed all the domains and I made places for them, right? So as you know, with the CISSP, there's 8 domains. So I listed 8 domains and I broke them out into places for me that I would remember if I was going to walk through my building, right? So the first is like the waiting room. The next is the reception. The next is the boardroom door, then the boardroom. And then what happens after the boardroom, in the boardroom, then actually I got a boardroom computer. Then I'm walking into the lab. And then from the lab, I go into security operations. And then I go into the basement. Now, for the domains, you're probably going to ask, okay, so how does that relate to the domains? Well, when I looked at, the how to relate and break them down, go back through them, right? It made sense to me to kind of go through each level, right? And go through it, right? So if I'm in the waiting room, what would I do in the waiting room, right? I look at, maybe there's the security, right? And the risk management. So that's domain 1, right? And then I go to the reception, right? And then the reception, I'm going to go speak to the receptionist. And what she's going to ask me for? She might ask me for my assets. Where's my card, my ID, my badge, right? Well, something that's going to give me access to the building, right? Who am I, right? So that's asset management, right? Or asset security, right? And then the next one I go into was the boardroom door. And the boardroom door for me was, the architecture of the door, right? And the engineering of the door. And I couldn't get in, right? So I had to look at that, right? So that was security, architecture and network security. So then I get in the door and I was looking, there's people there. I'm in the boardroom, right? I'm talking to people, right? So it's communication and networking, right? I'm going to communicate them and network about security, right? So now I was like, okay, so I've got to that point. I've got to those domains right now. What's the next domain, right? So how can I relate that? And I was like, okay, hold on. What if I relate the next domain, which is IAM, identity access management? What if I relate to a computer? I have to get into a computer. I have to use my identity access to get into a computer. So now I got up to that point. So we've got 5 domains, right? You've got the waiting room, the reception, you've got the boardroom door, you've got the boardroom, you got the computer in the boardroom, right? So 5 domains. So there's only 3 more left, right? So, okay, what's the next one? What am I going to do? Well, the next one is actually security assessment and testing. Well, where would I do security assessment and testing? I'll do it in the lab, right? So I was like, okay, so I'll go to the lab to do these testing, right? So that's domain 6. So domain 7 is, okay, what's domain 7? Security operations, right? So where would I go to operation? I would go to the control center. So I said, okay, now I go to my security control center to go look at security operations. So as you can see, it starts to build out. And I'm telling my story as I'm going through this. And the last one is, where do coders normally sit? Deep basement, closets, no one ever sees them. This is kind of the infamous programmers, you never see them. So I was like, okay, how do I make this fun and enjoyable? Well, they're going to be in the basement, right? Because no one's ever going to see programmers. They're always just off to the side. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not reality. A lot of them in office buildings, all that. But the cliche and stuff we've always heard about is coders and hackers are always in the basement, right? So that was the software development security, right? And then that was it. That was my 8 domains. So I share that with you, and I use that as an example. How would you use that for what you're studying right now? What you're going through. And I want you guys to go through that yourself, right? Think about what you're learning. Grab the index, right? Or if there's 8 sections, 10 sections, and do that for yourself. And then what I want you to do is I want you to do it 1 hour, 1 day. And this is your review. So write it out, what you're going to do. And then what I want you to do is I want you to review it 1 hour after you've write it out. You kind of got it. 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week. Right. And then I'm trying to think 3 weeks. I think 3 to 4 weeks is kind of the sweet spot. And then 6 months, then 1 year. By the time you get to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then 6 months, it should be in your long-term memory. Once you do that, then you should be able to recall it when someone goes, hey, by the way, Brandon, what's the 8 domains? And I should be able to go, oh, brand security. Okay. So the first domain is, right. Second domain, the first domain is in my waiting room. The second one, and then I'll go through them in my mind, but I'm not going to say waiting room. I say security and, security and got risk compliance, right? And then I'm going to keep going through it. And then the second one, asset security, and I'm going to keep going through that. And that's I'm going to be able to recall and tell them, but I'm not going to say lobby or waiting room, reception, all that. That's going to be the place in the imagination that's going to tie into what I have